Welcome to another episode of The Money Brew. I'm your vivacious host, Kylie Sultana. Today I have a beautiful special guest called Chris Borrett. Now, Chris was educated as a lawyer, and after he graduated with his own legal practice with a partner, he realised that he wasn't cut out for employment. After nearly 8 years and 2 legal practices later, he got sick of that and then went into property development. So he did that for the next 7 years. And eventually that crashed when the interest rates went to 22%. He then had to rebuild and opened up a real estate agency, which he then did for the next 5 years to pay off the debt that he'd inherited. As fortune would have it, the market turned in his favour and he retired from that after 5 years and went to India. Long story short, I really want to get into that story though, Chris. He then spent many years in India and other countries learning the healing arts. He came back in the year 2000, spent 2 years in Sydney and the next 10 in Byron Bay. Love Byron Bay. Again, doing property development as well as business coaching. These days though, Chris coaches business owners on how to make more money and if they get it right, how to work less hours. Welcome, Chris. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Kylie.
How are you?
Pleasure being here. I'm excited to see, and I'm excited to be here, and excited to see you looking so gorgeous.
Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you.
From our very first meeting, how many years ago? 2 or 3 years ago, isn't it? How long has it been?
It's been a little while, yeah. It was actually at the Millionaire Mindset, I think it was, wasn't it? At the
Absolutely.
Yes. So I already knew Suzanne. So you've been coaching Suzanne, our coach and accountant, for many years. But you and I really wanted to, but let's get straight into that Millionaire Mindset if you want to. I mean, I've got lots of questions I want to ask you. I want to talk a little bit about India and the healing arts and why.
Where are you going to start, Kylie? Where are you going to start?
There's just so much I want to ask you, Chris. You're just such an interesting character. I want everybody to know everything about you, or almost everything. Let's keep
Let's keep a few things. That's right.
Keep a few things in the closet, hey? Let's start with the Millionaire Mindset. I'm really interested in why a man was interested in helping women.
That's a good question.
Reach their potential.
I was reflecting on it myself actually last night. It's been more or less my whole life. Men actually have it really easy. As a rule, men have it easy. As we all know, it's a fairly male-dominated society. It's a male-dominated world. The men are the ones blowing everyone up. All in the name of their nation.
Yeah.
All in the name of the nation and love of your nation. All the men are killing each other and killing women and children as well.
Yeah.
So everyone knows that, right? Mostly we don't know what to do about it, but we do know that men seem to have a very heavy footprint on our planet. And the footprint has not really been a beautiful, sensitive, caring, considerate, loving footprint. It's more like being whatever the footprint needs to be to win and to conquer.
Yeah.
Now I was thinking, why did I continue, particularly focusing with women, especially in this workshop? I coach men as well, and I've already, my target audience is very well defined between alpha females and sensitive guys. So the macho guys don't last long with me, and I don't last long with them. Because I think they've got it all wrong and they're not prepared to hear that. But why I decided, particularly with the Millionaire Mindset for Women in Business, was my mother was always very strong female, a very strong individual. And in the marriage between her and my father, what I saw is she had plenty to say.
Yeah.
A bit like you, Kylie. Under no circumstances was she going to be squashed or quashed or put down or not heard. Now, my experience also, I've coached women for many years. I've coached full stop. I've coached for many years. I've mentored and coached for many years. And what I've seen is, particularly with the women, it seems that at some point they need permission to be themselves. They need to be able, because they've been taught to be good girls, good mothers, good wives, good girlfriends, good this, good that. And somehow they've lost themselves in the process. So in that process of losing themselves, they have bit the bullet or swallowed their anger or their frustration or their anxiety, whatever it is. They've always putting the best foot forward and always keeping it nice, and so that other people don't get offended or hurt.
Yeah, I think that's gone on for generations, and I feel like those tides are starting to turn, because even me, I mean, I'm
very slowly.
Yeah. I'm a very young 53, but even, back in the day, I was always taught to be polite, to people, to, not to say what I thought. People could be rude to me, but I was never allowed to say anything back, because that was seen to be rude, even
very strange rule, that, isn't it? Where people can be like really, not nice at all and nasty and obnoxious or disgusting.
It's really bizarre.
And then it's very like imbalanced there.
Yeah, I agree. So is that what led you to go to India, to get in touch with your, feminine?
No, not at all. Not at all. What got me there was firstly reading a book. Well, I started quite young. My mother was interested in all the different occult and spiritual activities that were going on all over the place.
Yeah.
So initially I got there were a lot of books lying around the place, and I started early reading books on religion and reading books on spirituality, religion, man and woman, the psyche, the mind of man, the mind of woman. But what actually got me to India was, at a certain point when you've made a shitload of money, you actually ask yourself, well, why isn't that doing it for me? Why am I ungrateful? Am I ungrateful? Should I start, sharing the money around the whole world and giving it away? Well, I did all that anyhow. But at a certain point, when you see that whatever you have, a beautiful marriage, beautiful relationship, dogs, children, money, cars, investment properties, and you're still not fulfilled, either you're very ungrateful, which is also possible, or there's something else.
Yeah.
And it was the something else I knew clearly that's what it was. It wasn't that I was ungrateful, because I was grateful. I was very, although I had ups and downs, as most people do, and particularly I had enough, because I always pushed the envelope. But at some point, when I sort of felt I'd cracked the money code, then okay, what am I going to do next? Make another few million, make another, make it whatever.
Yeah.
How many more million does a person have to have? How many more possessions do they have to have to appreciate the simple things of life? So that's why. So having said that, that's why I went to India, having read a few books, like a lot of books, and having come across someone who said, trust your own self, trust your instinct, don't follow anybody, take a few clues here and a few cute clues there from people, and then from your own experience decide how you want to live your life. So that's what I've been doing for a long time. And having had this mother who always only wanted, as mothers do, for their children to be happy.
Yeah,
that's generally it. They're not wishing for their children to be billionaires, are you, Kylie?
No, not at all. We've always said to our boys, just be happy. Do happy. What you want to do in life. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as you enjoy it.
And that was it. So basically, those were the impulses. Basically, I'd had enough money. I retired. I got out of it all early, and I went over there.
And how long did you spend over there?
And I kept going back there as well.
Yes, I know. And how long did you spend there initially when you first went over there?
I went over there in 88 and I came back in 92. And then I hang around Australia for a few years. Then I went back in 96 for another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, wow.
So probably 8 years in all.
Yeah, wow. Okay. And so how did that change your perception of, you know, you were saying before, how many more millions can you make and, you know, how many possessions do you need? How did that change your perception? Did that make you happy? Did that give you inner peace?
Yeah, well, I think inner peace is a long haul, Kylie, in my experience, inner peace, right?
Yeah.
Well, what it did do is, at a certain point, and many of the people I coach and mentor, they separate their work life from their, you know, their personal life or their play. Work and play, they separate.
Mm-hmm.
What I learned and practiced over India, and I also do now, is I don't really separate work and play. Mm-hmm. So right now for me, it's fun. You know, you and I talking, we're catching up as well.
Yeah.
We haven't seen each other for a while.
No.
We're basically having a chat. So for me, this is having a chat. I don't have any agenda. I wouldn't have even thought to do it. I would have said no probably to most people except you.
Thank you.
Because you know, the thing is, if someone can understand that life can be joyful and it can be like a walk in the park, if they can understand that there's a possibility of this in their life and that they don't have to separate business and pleasure, that there is another way. So before I went to India, before I went into meditation, you know, sort of quite deeply, before I did that, I sort of were riding two horses. One horse was the money work thing, and the other one's the relaxation pleasure one.
Yeah. Yeah.
One most people tend to avoid, or they'd avoid it if they won the lottery ticket, and the other one people tend to go towards the pleasurable experiences, etc., etc. So what I've learned is basically how to have both while I'm in the world. So now I've come back, you know, you'd say, come back from the Himalayas. I'm back in the world just like everyone else, leading a normal life, pretty much. I don't ride two horses at one time anymore.
Yeah. It's
the same. I don't know whether you know that expression or not.
Riding two. I've never actually heard that one. I've heard plenty of expressions. Not that one. What does that mean? Explain it to me.
People are thinking they'd rather have another life, or a more spiritual life, or a more loving life, or a more something else. They separate that from the life they're leading at work, which is, okay, while you work, you got to do whatever everyone else is doing. You know, maybe I've got to be smarter than everyone else. Maybe I have to compete with other people.
Yeah.
They have different rules for one and different rules for another.
Gotcha. So
I
live by one rule.
Good. So that makes it easy, doesn't it?
Oh, so easy. I mean, admittedly, when I was employed, I used to have the two personas, because, you know, when you're working for someone else, you've kind of got to get along with everyone and play the game. But, you know, when you're self-employed and you have your own business, it's a little bit different. I mean, the team still need to see that person. Yeah.
It's a lot different,
Yeah. But, I mean, I guess it helps that Anthony and I run the business together. So there's kind of really no hiding behind anything, you know, when you're running a business with your partner. Yeah.
Basically being yourself, you know, not having different rules for this and a different rule for that, and basically not riding two horses at once.
That's right.
Like quite a few of my clients, obviously, because they're not going to come to me if they don't have some interest in having a more peaceful life. Yes. Not just about, not just financial success, but how can they have that peaceful thing too? So mostly they will come to me and they'll have some interest in meditation. And they say to me, Chris, I can't do both. I can't, keep the business going, make a lot of money, because if I'm really truthful, they say, I'd like to go on a retreat for like a month and I can't do it. Or I'd like to go away and do 10 days at a meditation retreat and I can't do it because of the business. So the thing is how to bring in this into daily life.
Yeah.
So to answer your question about is a minute a day going to do it? Well, no, it won't. It's a good start, but there are three characteristics of meditation which you can bring into your life, like right now while we're talking.
Yeah.
One is relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
How relaxed are you now? Are you, you breathing evenly, your shoulders relaxed, your knees relaxed, belly's relaxed, neck's relaxed, arms relaxed.
Belly's definitely relaxed, yeah.
Relaxation is one thing. A non-judgmental attitude or approach is the other absolute essential, which is not easy because the mind itself is a judging mechanism. It's a judging machine.
Yeah, isn't it?
Someone's good, someone's bad, someone's beautiful, someone's ugly, someone's thin, someone's fat, someone's rich, someone's poor, etc. Right?
Yeah.
Non-judgmental thing. And the other one is watchfulness or self-observation.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the three characteristics. So if in a day you can just watch yourself, watch what you say, how you say it, the intonation. Are you relaxed, or am I relaxed when I'm saying it?
Yeah.
Or am I judging it? Do I have is there a corner of me judging the person or judging the situation? So those three characteristics, relaxation and non-judgmental attitude.
Yeah.
And watchfulness or self-observation.
Okay. That's really hard. Especially, self-observation. It's and judgmental. Yeah, and you're right. The mind just goes to judgment. It's really hard to switch that off.
It goes straight there.
It does. I'm not judging you now at all, Chris. No, I'm joking.
I'm not, listen, I don't care anyhow, right?
I know. And I don't know about you, but I feel like as I've gotten older, the less I care about what people think about me. When you're kind of young and trying to prove yourself, it's, you're trying to impress people and you're bothered about what people think of you. But I feel like as I've gotten older, or maybe it's because I'm more comfortable with who I am, maybe it's because I've matured and had more life experience, I'm not sure, but
many things. It's one of the fear of other people's opinion is one of the biggest things that drags people away from their authentic selves. They feel they've got to they feel like play some play some role, be some sort of special person or something.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that's actually held me back for many years because of when I was younger, being told that I'd never be anything, to just marry a rich man.
All that stuff.
Or what do you? Whenever I tried doing things, it's like, what are you doing that for? Kind of, and that's that judgment, isn't it? They were going straight to judgment.
So we're not getting a lot of support there, are we, or permission to be ourselves? In fact, the opposite.
Yeah. So, and that's, and self-realization, realizing that that's happened in my past. And when we had our boys, we were always on the same page, Anthony and I, saying, we didn't care what they wanted to do. I mean, one of them didn't even finish his HSC. He left school in year 10 because school wasn't for him. So we let him go and do a couple of apprenticeships. That wasn't him. But he's now a manager at a movie cinema. So, he has worked his way up and he's happy as Larry. He's
good on him. That's the most important thing.
And he's really tight with his money. He wants to buy a property, so he's a smart kid. So I feel like because we've encouraged him to, follow his passion. He loves movies, so he wanted to work at the movie theatre. So
good job.
He'll be running. He'll be running Hoyts one day. I have no doubt, no doubt. But so thank you for sharing that with me. I feel like, and you can tell that you meditate and that you are one of those calm, peaceful people, because being around you, Chris.
How do you tell that, Kylie?
Well, let me finish, because whenever I'm around you or see you, or you just kind of have this calmness about you, and for a man, you don't have that ego. You're not kind of, I don't know, you're just not like any other man I've met at networking event, like in business. My husband aside.
Yeah, of course. The bad news is I still have ego and I'm still out to get rid of it. It's a very long journey.
Of course.
To get to kill off the ego. That it's a very tricky little creature, this ego thing.
It is.
Very tricky.
It definitely is. It is. But you are definitely one of my top favourite men to be around. And that's, there's not a lot of men I like to be around. My husband, you, that's about it, and my 2 boys.
Thank you, Carly.
So let's get into, you were talking about money and things and, how many more millions do you need to make? So when you are coaching people, so the meditation and everything is something that you bring into that, and do you help them? Do you get
not so much? No, not so much. No. I try to. I basically leave it all to them if they wanted. I suggest things to them, but it's primarily about business. Yeah, because you can't sit still. I mean, just quickly there are 2 sorts of meditation. One is active meditation. One's passive. People think of meditation as sitting silently, eyes closed for 1 or 2 or 3 hours, whatever. Yeah. People cannot do that. Just forget about sitting silently. Everyone forget about sitting silently. Think more about what active meditation can you do that's going to allow you silence at the end of 45 minutes, say. Yeah. At the end of 45 minutes action, then you can sit silently for 15 minutes. But when people come to me for coaching, basically I understand that they've got so much running around in their heads. So no, I don't even suggest meditation. I just might say, thought about it. I might give them a few hints, but the primary focus is making money, making sure they have a high-performing team, which is really difficult, difficult. Making sure they're pricing right, that they are pricing what they would want to price. And if they're not pricing that as they would want to, why not? So it's always, in the beginning, it's always about the money, because they can't sit still. They've got their kids, they've got this, they've got that, they've got the bills, they've grown the business. You can't sit silently for an hour. So that's not even on the agenda. Yeah. So so when a business comes to you, and I know what you like, well, I haven't actually coached with, I've done the Millionaire Mindset with you, but someone comes to you for coaching, what's the first thing you look at with their business? What's the first thing you sit down and look at? I look at their profit and loss account, and I look at their balance sheet. Yeah. And so it's really important for business owners. Oh, absolutely. So to know that. Like the four things you probably know anyhow, Kylie. One is the bank statements. Bank statement does not reflect the business or the health of it. Bank statement, balance sheet, profit and loss account, cash flow forecast. So where are they going to be in 6 months, 3 months, 9 months? If they're going this way, if they're proceeding in this way as they seem to be, where are they going to be in 6 months' time? Wow, okay. It looks like maybe they're going to be in a loss situation. Okay, when I say loss, I mean cash loss, not profit and loss. Yeah. It's cash loss. Why is that? So what we say, and that is then, if that is the case and there's a negative after our cash flow projection, then what we say is they're growing broke. Right. They might have their revenue might be increasing. They might be really going. They might look like they're going amazingly, but they're actually growing broke because their margins are not right. Okay. So I look at the numbers first. Yep. So, and I guess based on that, you look at then their pricing, how much they're pricing for their services. I look at their pricing, then I look at how they're pricing, why they're pricing a certain way. I know what people will pay for anything. And you do too, Kylie. People will come to you and they'll say, we can't afford this plan, this life plan for our wealth. And then they go and, then they might go and buy a car they can't afford. Or they'll go and buy an LV purse if they're a woman, or if they're a guy, they'll buy, some toy they can't afford, or they buy a big laptop, or they buy a TV screen 100 centimeters long, whatever it is. So I know what people will pay. Yeah, I really love, there was an exercise that you did with Anthony a while back. I think you sat down with him and you worked out our pricing. Yeah. And it's really interesting because I've been saying to him,
I'd been saying to him for years, you're not charging enough. You've been doing this for a long time. That people, it's kind of like that analogy people use for the tradesman that comes to fix the broken tap. It's a $10 faucet or whatever, but he charges them $300. And it's like, well, that part. And he said, yeah, but you paid for my experience. I walked in and knew exactly what I had to fix. It's similar to Anthony. He, has been doing this a long time. He can instantly see how much he can save someone and what strategy he can use. And then I think you did that exercise with him and broke down everything, like worked out how much, who had to write the plan and the costings for everything. And I think it worked out he was working for $37 an hour or something. And
then we might have taken it down to a minute, or how much a minute, right?
It was something like that. And I think he was a little bit shell shocked after that for a little while.
I remember that. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. But that was a real epiphany for him. And that's really, that one little session with him has really changed the way that he sees the value that he gives clients. And it's been fantastic for our business. So, it didn't matter how much I told him.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. That never worked, right?
No. He had to hear it from you. So I can only imagine that was just one short session with Anthony for the Millionaire Mindset. And then, I can imagine the transformation that some of your clients go through. Can you give us an example?
They do.
Can you give us an example?
I'll give you an example. I can give you many examples.
You don't have to name names.
Why don't I name Suzanne Walker?
Why don't you? Because she's amazing. I love that lady.
She's totally amazing. So when she came to me, this is now a long time ago now, probably over 6 years, I think, it's either coming up 6 years or it's gone past 6 years. Firstly, she had no idea how good she was, no idea at all, number one. Number two, she didn't realise, she sort of knew it, but she didn't realise to what extent she was bleeding for her clients. And she bleeds for the clients, often more than they bleed, often than they bleed for themselves. So number one, she didn't realise how good she was. Number two, her pricing was like, it wasn't really, it was far less. If someone, like if you go to a professional, whether it's whoever it is, a financial planner like you guys, a wealth planner, a lawyer, a doctor, and whoever, or even a tradie for that matter. Yeah. And when I say even a tradie, not that tradies are any less. In fact, they're often very much underrated as, he's only a tradie, right, or she's only a tradie. They have an incredible skill. And I have coached, and I still coach tradies, and I love it. I love them because they're simple, and they're what's the word? They're very humble. Yeah. They're quite humble people, and they'll tend to be more humble than the so-called professional people. So if you can get a professional person who's humble as well. So with Suzanne, she had no idea how good she was. And as most business owners don't know. And I sort of, because I've been around for like ever, I've seen, people in all sorts of different situations, all sorts of different businesses, what they do when they're stressed, what they do when they're pressed, what they do when they're relaxed. I can say to the person, listen, if you could charge double, why wouldn't you? Yeah. And they have to think about that. Oh, that's a lot, they say. That's a lot more. I don't know about that. I don't know whether people will pay for it. And I say, well, forget whether they'll pay for it or not. If you could, would you? Well, yes. And then they think a bit further. So they have to go into themselves to think. And then they might think, oh, I don't know whether I'm worth that much. Or whether the service is worth that much. Yeah. And then I explain to them as minutely as I can and is much detail, the value of the service they're providing. Do you realise that if you provide this service, that person, not just his financial or her financial situation is going to be so much better. But on top of that, you'll give them peace of mind. They'll be able to sleep at night. Their relationship will be better. So there's so many different other aspects that people forget when it comes to running a business, or anything for that matter, that everything's impacted. The relationship's impacted. Their love life's impacted. Everything's impacted. So I'll try and explain to them, okay, very specifically, this is the benefit that you're providing to your clients. Don't you think that's worth a lot more? So I have to slow the process down. It's not a quick conversation, but generally, I'll give you another example. I coach quite a few dentists, and one of them, female and male, and one of them quite a few years ago said to me, but aren't all dentists the same? And tell me about it. And this is only like 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm still in touch with her. She's still part of a group I'm running. I said, and now she knows she is so much better. She's done all these courses. She's done all these courses. She's done all these workshops. She spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, they go to a course overseas, and the course costs 30 grand.
Yeah.
You know, the fares and accommodation might be 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10. Yep. By the time they've come back, they've spent $50K on a 2-week venture to Mexico. So she was thinking, I said, well, from what I hear, you are an amazing dentist. You know, your skill, your craft, your expertise, your care, your consideration, everything. Oh, really? She said. Anyhow, so this is the beliefs we all have about ourselves.
Yeah.
That we're not good enough. Maybe we're okay.
Yeah.
And it's got nothing to do with the ego. The thing is, like, how much are we pouring into our clients, and how much are you and Anthony and Siggy, right? Siggy.
Yeah.
How much are you pouring into the people? Well, I know you guys, and the answer is a lot. Yeah,
we do. I actually love what we do, and I love the change that we make in people's lives. But yeah, it's one of those things, financial advice. It's really hard to explain to people because I can't touch and feel the result straight away. Like, you go to the hairdresser or, go get a facial or whatever. You're happy to pay for that because you can see the difference and touch and feel it or whatever. But coming to get financial advice, it's especially for the younger generation, our accumulators, as we call them, it's a slow burn. They don't become rich overnight. So
you got to paint the value, and which you do anyhow, right? And if we're not,
of course.
If we're not painting the value, then there's an expression, Kylie, often used with the clients: communication is the response you receive.
Okay.
So if I'm attempting to communicate something and I'm not getting it across, then clearly it's me, it's not you.
Yeah.
So then I need to, which is why you know me well enough in these workshops, right? Which is why I try to come from like every angle.
Yeah.
And I will talk a lot. I'm trying to cover like every possible base for that person to get it.
Yeah.
And we're all wired differently. Some are intellectually wired. Some people are more emotional based. Some people are more intuitive. Some people are more spreadsheet orientated. So everyone's coming from a different personality. So they're hearing me differently. So I try to speak in the different you could say dialects of. Use, for example, a very simple example, the disc profile, right?
Yes.
So the disc profile, each of those individuals, personalities, they have a certain language. So I'll try to speak in every language.
So according to their
according to their characteristics.
Yeah. Now, did we do that in the Millionaire Mindset? We did something called the Enneagram, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I was something surprising to you, wasn't I? I can't remember what I was.
Well,
But you're like, oh,
I think I'll have to look it up, Kylie, but I have a feeling you were the same as me.
I think I was, but I think you were really surprised by that. You were like, I think that's right. Did you answer that truthfully?
I think it was a DI. I'm not going to look at it now, but I'll look at it after the session.
No, yeah.
I've got it here. I've got it here.
Yeah. Now, Chris, let's finish off with a couple of, maybe 3 top tips that you have. So specifically for business owners, I know that for us, getting a business coach and getting somebody on board to help us, it's a really big step because it's not cheap, right?
No,
it's not cheap to get a business coach. But I truly believe we've had business coaches over the years, and I truly believe they're not all created equal. You know, like your friend, the dentist, she thought they were all the same. Business coaches are not all the same. Yeah. So what should somebody look for in a coach if they're looking for someone, if they need help with their business?
There are certainly a number of things, right? For a business coach, basically they will need to be trained. They will need to know their numbers really well.
Yeah.
That's if they're a business coach. If they're a life coach, well, not necessarily. But if they're a business coach, for sure, they will need to know their numbers. They will need to know what profit you guys should be running at. They will need to know whether your net profit is good or bad. They'll need to know whether your gross profit is good or bad. If they know you can either call it a generic growth rate. A generic growth rate for many businesses is about 10. If they have a good reputation and they're good at what they're doing, it should be around 10%.
Okay.
That's a generic growth rate.
Yeah.
However, if they employ strategies, tactics, sales and marketing, and other things, they can have a growth rate of 20%, 30%, 50%, 100%, depending upon where they are in the business, what time frame. So this person, he'll be looking at how long you've been in business. He'll be looking at or she will be looking at your growth rate. They'll be looking at the productivity of the team. They'll be looking at your average dollar sale. They'll be looking at how you get business. If you're only getting business from word of mouth, that's fantastic. But there's also sales and marketing. There's also, you can get good referrals, but can you convert them? Can you turn them into a client? You might get a lot of referrals, but what's your conversion rate like? What's your understanding of sales psychology? They'll be looking at all these things, Kylie, but they'll be particularly looking at your figures. And they will know by looking at your profit and loss the last, 2 or 3 years. They'll know how you're tracking, how you should be tracking, why you're not tracking as well as you could. What's in the way? What's in the way with all that? So they're going to try and identify the roadblocks.
Okay, so the first thing would be make sure that the coach wants to have a really deep dive into your numbers and see what's going on under the hood, so to speak.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep. Okay, and then what would the next?
Next thing would be you have to almost love that person, and they have to sort of almost love you.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be an intimate journey.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. But I always say, if people say, should I have a coach? I just say, I don't know, how hungry are you? I'm doing okay. Okay, forget about it.
Yeah.
Are you hungry? Yeah. Are you? How urgent is this for you? With Suzanne, she realized that, she had a good business. She has now an even greater business. But
Amazing.
She understood the urgency of it rather than, I'm doing okay. So my next question to people is, how bad do you want this, and how much are you prepared to work at it?
Yeah.
And I agree. And one of my clients, I reminded him today, he's just come back from India. I sent him an email of when he first came on board, which was about 2 years ago. He said, I will do everything 110%. I will do everything you suggest. He hasn't done anything much I've suggested, and he's not given it 110%. So I gave him some tough love this morning. But also I emailed him that where he wrote that 2 years ago. I emailed it, just like I extracted it and emailed it to him, right? I said, well, okay, good. Clearly you still want to muck around. So you've got to want it badly, and you've got to be prepared to work on the buseless, which means read books, read other business books, listen to Audible.
Yep.
So self-education, and that's basically read business books or listen to business books on Audible, because after a while the sound of my voice is going to drive you fucking mad.
Well, I don't know. I quite like the sound of your voice, Chris, but you know.
So self-education, urgency and self-education.
I think too, you said tough love. You gave him some tough love. I think you've got to be prepared to take that on board as well, because a lot of people don't want to hear what they're doing wrong. They, you know, it's very hard, and it is very hard, you know, to take the tough love.
You've got to you've got to give it to them, because they've come a certain way with their own efforts, but they clearly want more. Therefore, they have to then understand maybe this whole coaching thing is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And it is, you know, you need to spend, Kylie, 10 to 20 hours a week on your business, not in it. And mostly people can't do that, or they don't want to do it. Yeah.
And look, it is tough. It is really tough, especially, you know, the whole reading and self-help learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I lost my ability to read years ago, but Audible's been a godsend for me. I love it. Every night, instead of flicking through doom scrolling on our bloody things we've got, I pop my headphones in and I flick on a book. So I've just been reading Atomic Habits, or listening to Atomic Habits.
Yeah, good. James Clear, right?
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Did you fill out the habits cheat sheet?
I haven't done it yet. I tried looking for it the other day, but I will do it. But I just really love it. And I'm really enjoying Audible. So if anyone's listening, Audible is. And I thought I'd hate Audible. I thought, oh God, I don't want to listen to somebody bloody reading to me, but I actually like it. So it's quite nice.
Good, right?
Yeah. So thank you so much, Chris, for chatting with me today.
My pleasure.
Thank you for your tips.